So hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fashion and Sustainability Summit 2020 series, week 16. My name is Andrea Kennedy. I'm tuning in from LIM College and FashionDex.com, and we're excited you're with us today. Before we start, we just want to let you know of a great new publication, which is a wonderful collaboration between Human Solutions of North America and FashionDex.com on a book on standard size tables of all sizes of men's and women's wear. It includes sizing tables and grading tables to help with your fit needs. Because if you're here, you probably have fitting needs. And today's summit and this whole series of 20 weeks is another collaboration with FashionDex and LIM College, where business meets fashion. So thank you for joining us. These 20 weeks have been sponsored by Eco Life Yarns by Belda Lorenz, who have been producing for 60 years recycled yarns with renewable energy and zero waste, as well as Kendor Textiles out of Canada, producing environmentally and socially responsible knit and woven fabrics for all your apparel needs, and the Accessories Council, supporting hard and soft accessory brands with great seminars, events, and award ceremonies. And I'm really excited to introduce our speakers now and to start. So this week 16 is focused on reducing waste, and we're having a conversation on sustainability, size, and garment fit. And today's speakers are Jamie Campbell, Manager of Sizing and Fit from Human Solutions of North America, Jessica Couch, founder of Luxor and Finch, Joelle Bond, Associate Designer at Athleta, Travis Wells, Fit Sizing and Global Sustainability and Pre-Production Consultant. And our conversation will be moderated by David Burnett, LIM College Industry Advisory Board member and President of B&B Consulting, and co-moderated by Bettina Hobson, recent LIM College Global Sustainability major graduate. So with that, we welcome you. Thank you. Start putting your questions as you have them in the Q&A box, and I'm going to toss it to David Burnett. David, take it away.
Thank you, Andrea. Well, it's wonderful to be here, and thank you for all the panelists and discussion people who are here with me. I'm David Burnett. I'm from B&B Present, which is a consulting firm that I formed after having semi-retired from being in the real apparel industry of the nuts and bolts. My last position was as Chief Merchandise Officer at Venus Fashions. I started my career at Saks Fifth Avenue in the dark ages, I imagine, for all of you newbies. And throughout my career, I've always had a passion for fashion, fit, and function. And I think those three things mold together to really make into a product that's important. I also drove the profitability in all my positions, and that weighed heavily. So I want to start, I want to invite everyone and let other people tell you about their history, but because they're in the thick of it, as I say. So Jessica, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I am Jessica Couch, and I'm a fit technology integration expert. And what I am all about as well is understanding how important size and fit is, as well as matching people to products successfully, which is one of the ways I think we can be more sustainable in the future.
Let's go to Jamie Campbell.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm the manager of sizing and fitting at Human Solutions of North America. And we are a technology company and a consulting company. So we serve primarily the automotive and the fashion industries, and those two sound kind of disconnected, but the key link between them is really the need for accurate body data to create better fitting products. So we are continually collecting body data and creating new technologies to utilize it. So those include things like size table optimization tools, virtual avatars, size recommendation tools, and body shape analysis tools. So I work regularly with brands to help them analyze the population, see where their sizing and fitting falls, and essentially see how we can make their products better for everyone.
Joelle?
Hi, I'm Joelle Bond. I am sitting in San Francisco. I am a designer for Athleta, which is owned by Gap Inc. And I have spent most of my career in technical design, where I help to ensure optimal fit for our customer base, and also I help to ensure that our garments are constructed well and are of great quality and able to last our customers years and years to come. So super excited to be here, and yeah, thank you for having me.
Great. Travis.
Hi, my name is Travis Wells. I'm in New York, actually Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I spent the majority of my career running technical design departments, both women's and men's. And now I have since pivoted my career. And after receiving a MBA in finance and global sustainability, I now consult in supply chain and sustainability for fashion companies.
Bettina.
Hey everyone, I'm Bettina, and it's a great day here because today's graduation day for all LIM students for the spring. The ceremony's tonight at 7, so hi to any graduates and congratulations.
And Rebecca. Rebecca, you're from Fashion Deck, so welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. I'm the sustainability coordinator intern at Fashion Dex and excited to be here.
Well, I wanted to, when this topic came up, it's very interesting because as a merchant, I'm, just to let everyone know, I've never been a technical designer, but I've had to, as a coordinator of many of the functions within a garment, whether it's the buying, the product sourcing, inventory control, quality, all those things that go into really looking at the product. It's kind of been fascinating to try and address this topic. The merchant view is one that we really look at people, planning, product, price, promotion, place, partners, presentation, and passion. Those are what I call the 9 Ps of merchandising and what helps to bring product to life. But since we're in this space right now, the first question I wanted to ask all the panelists was, from a historic lens, natural disasters and events have reshaped the garment industry. How do you think this applies to reducing waste, sustainability, sizing, and garment fit in the pandemic? And I'm going to open that up to everyone.
I can jump in if you'd like. So I personally, I think, unfortunately, a lot of long-term change it comes when we're actually forced to implement it, like in the case of natural disasters and this pandemic. And from my point of view, I can speak to the implementation of virtual avatars and doing 3D fittings as an example. The technology has been there for years and it's been slowly implemented across brands, but overnight we saw brands have to scramble to not have access to their fit models or their physical fit forms, and they were scrambling to get access to accurate avatars. So really by force, they're finally using 3D in a way that it was intended to, which overall is great because 3D, when used how it's intended to, does help to reduce waste and create better fitting products.
Just so we continue, so that we understand all the questions that have been sent to the panelists. One of the next questions, just so that we can frame what we're doing and what we'd like to speak about, I'd like to ask Joelle a specific question. Because Athleta actually has within its one of their top goals is sustainability. And what are the largest challenges tactically in terms of addressing sizing, garment fit, and sustainability that you see on an everyday basis?
Well, so Athleta definitely has a traditional production model. So we produce for the masses. We produce tens of thousands of garments per year. And the biggest challenge with that is you have to kind of fit on a fit model that matches the criteria and the data of your core customer base, and you grade up and down from there to generate your different sizes. And that's, across the board, that's just traditionally how companies produce and make their clothing. But you can't accommodate every body. We can accommodate most bodies, and that's the goal. But if you don't have we don't have yet the technology to produce made to measure or made to order clothing at scale. So there inevitably is going to be some waste in, the amount of inventory and sizes that you buy into. So you have to really be careful and just make informed decisions according to data and according to demand. Fortunately for us, as an activewear company, we make most of our clothing with a ton of spandex, elastic, and other elements that help to accommodate a broader range of body types. So that is a huge advantage in being within the activewear sector. But yeah, that's the main challenge, is just you can't fit every body type, you can't fit every size, and the goal is to fit most of the people that come and buy your product. And that's just kind of standard across the industry until we can get to that place where technology can accommodate for made to measure clothing, made to order.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would totally agree, Joelle, and I know you have incredible expertise in that. And to piggyback on it, I think that we have to fundamentally change how we're thinking about what a sustainable supply chain looks like and how we can accommodate size and fit. And it starts with understanding, like Joelle said, you can't fit everybody, but you can manage the customer's expectation well when we're on that end of the supply chain. So what I've seen as someone who has experienced and piloted a lot of tech companies is that we're not thinking about how we're managing the expectations of the consumer. So we know that people are leaving the stores and they're shopping online, and we're trying to give them the same experience where you're just scrolling through a catalog. It has nothing to do with who you are, your past purchase. It's not describing your fit. You're looking at a size chart, which is rarely used for people to really relate to size. And we're thinking that that is enough. But what it creates is hesitation. And what it creates is it begins to break the trust of the consumer. And with so many options, customers are going to say, you know what, I'll just go somewhere else that makes sense for me. Or I'm going to go get spandex, or I'll just try my luck somewhere else. And you really can't afford to lose the customer in that experience. So let's say, for instance, you're a multi-brand retailer. You would definitely have to focus on how you're communicating size and fit to your customer in a better way. So we have all these wonderful stylists in store that can help you. They can eyeball you, they can size you up, but we haven't quite utilized that skill set in a way online so that when people are shopping, they can have a similar experience that builds trust and gets them to the checkout faster. That is just one place where this breaks down. And I'm thinking that on the design side, like Jamie had mentioned, 3D tech, we've been pushing that for years, and people were kind of like, we'll wait on it. Lucky for us, the good thing about COVID is that it has shaken up the fashion world to face its demons much faster than probably it would have ever happened. And so having an understanding of how 3D avatars can reflect your actual population, how you can manipulate the body types to see different ages and to see how weight gain is distributed properly. This gives designers an advantage to go more niche focused and really talk about the problems that people have, and then incorporate that into not only your product development, but what about the communication piece once these items are online or in a store? And I think something that simple of understanding the feedback loop and then transferring data up and down the supply chain can make a huge difference when we're thinking about sustainability and size and fit.
Travis, from a purely tactical point of view, who's a person who has to implement all these things, and when you think about, I know that the normal grade rules changes from a size 2 to a size 24. How does that impact your workload? And from my experience, many technical designers have to educate many people in terms of the real nuts and bolts of how you address this, and also do that with speed and efficiency. You have to deal with the real nuts and bolts, and you're kind of in the weeds. And as a merchant, it's very nice for me to say, yeah, I'm just going to throw it out there for 2 to 24. But you have to deal with that decision.
It's funny though, because in a practical sense, the size ranges aren't really set by technical design departments. They're set usually by the merchandisers or the sales departments. So what happens is you're usually like, let's just say, and also there's a difference between when you talk about designer, contemporary, and apparel. They're kind of two separate animals. So apparel is more of an inclusive grouping and designers more of a smaller grouping. So usually a designer range will go from 0 to 12. And what you see when you see the numbers of how stores actually purchase the garments, you see kind of a bell curve shape. So you see kind of like they'll buy fewer zeros and fewer 12s, and the majority of the buy is in the middle. But so when it comes down to actually the fitting and it doesn't really, you don't really see any of that because you're fitting on your fit model, which mostly falls in the middle. So practically in a technical design department, you're only really seeing one size. And then you're hoping that you graded correctly and that it actually does, crossing your fingers, hoping that it does fit properly on as the size go up and down.
As a follow-up to that question, and as we have seen changes happen within a short period, has that bell curve, and I'm opening this up to everyone, has that bell curve shifted? Because my understanding is now that the old size 12 is probably going to shift up because of just the either pandemic issues and that pandemic 10-pound weight gain that everyone's talking about. From a tactical point, and I'd like to speak about this in terms of how you've spoken about this with regard to your own teams, but also in practice with what changes you might be seeing on the business end in terms of products that, how your products are really being perceived and being addressed and being bought from the real space. I mean, it would be nice to be democratic in all these things, that everyone would get everything that they want, but I know that that's probably not the case. And choices have to be made. So, you know, from the standpoint of the functional part and also what you're seeing from your other leaders or team members, how do you see them being able to address this?
So I can speak on that from the pure body shape and size. We just wrapped a large-scale sizing survey called Size North America. We started it in 2017 and we finished it in 2019. We body scanned 18,000 people, men, women, and children across the United States. So we have a really good up-to-date picture of what we actually look like. And to the question about where that bell curve falls, every size chart's different, obviously, but depending on the size chart, if we use women as an example, the average woman in the United States falls between a 12 and a 16. When we look at the BMI numbers of adults in the United States, for both men and women, the average is at a 29, which for those of you who are unaware, that is the borderline right between overweight and obese, technically, according to the chart. So when we're talking about where sizes need to be, where that bell curve needs to be, in reality, if we're going to continue with the same kind of thinking that we always have in the past, that median size really is where we're ending a lot of size ranges. So that's a big issue that should be addressed.
Yeah, and it also depends on the brand and who you're marketing to. I can say for Athleta, we fit on a size 6, grade up, grade down, but primarily we're buying into, you know, that small, medium range. Because most of our customer base, based on the data and the demand, that's where they fall. But now that we've extended our sizes up to 3X, you know, we literally just began rolling out more and more styles this year for 1X to 3X. And there is a huge demand. You know, now that we're offering that, we're seeing a much larger demand for that. So it kind of, you know, I'd say from a brand standpoint, it just comes down to what you're offering and how you're marketing it and positioning yourself. Because people, you know, won't buy from a brand that doesn't offer what they need. But if you are offering what people need, they'll flock to you. So that's kind of my perspective from Athleta.
I wanted to also add that the size issue is difficult because a size 12 is almost, the number itself is arbitrary, because if we're not going to discuss body shape and weight gain, it means nothing. Because even with your grading, if you know you have a pear customer or an hourglass customer or an Apple customer, and you're grading a waistline incrementally according to a body shape that doesn't match your end consumer, it doesn't matter if you offer that larger size. When it comes to fit and how people will feel in it, it will be disconnected. And I think that one of the things that brands are going to have to do, if they're not already doing that, is really take an interest in shape and what that means, and then communicating that. Because if your fit model is an apple, but your end consumer is a hourglass, it's going to be a disconnect with that sizing regardless. Because I just bought something from Carbon 38, cool. And I'm like, I think I know my sizing in their athletic wear. And it was just not sized properly for my body type at all. So I'm like, I don't want to return it and like obviously go down. I'll take it to my tailor. But something like athletic wear that stretches, you can even get that wrong. And then if I don't feel comfortable in it, I'm not coming back to shop. So I think what we also have to figure out is how are we addressing shape and weight distribution? Because even if we're saying the population is getting larger, where? And where are we determining that it's getting larger? Are the majority of people in the US apple, pears, or, hourglass, whatever, rectangle? I think, and it'll require a little more work and elbow grease, but that is what's necessary, in my opinion, to be sustainable. You got to dig a little deeper and really understand who you're targeting. And like what has been said, kind of communicate those things to them in a way that makes sense.
So just as a question, what I'm hearing is that it takes a great deal of investment, not only in resource management, but also from the financial point, which I would be in, would be also inventory management and correct inventory management to balance out the needs in order for you to be what you hope to be profitable at the end of the cycle. Okay. I have another question. How do special sizes work into this entire because again, something from a merchant level is SKU count. And when you think of trying to have, either extended sizing, or there's petites, there's talls, there's plus, there's also something that I think has sort of been somewhat disruptive is vanity sizing. And how do you see that all playing into how customers embrace a brand, or how customers shop, or managing their expectations, which in the end is really what we're all trying to do.
I can address that.
Thank you.
I have seen companies that have had 4 different fit models. They've had a petite fit model, they've had an Asian market fit model, they've had a standard fit model, and they've had a plus size fit model. Now, unless you have a huge technical design team, that's not very efficient. And a lot of people aren't, it's going to take a lot of time in order to fit all those styles. The second thing, and also you could be seen as wasteful, because also we have to remember that apparel and fashion are forecast based when they produce. So this not actually based on actual demand. So with a forecast based purchase and buy, you're going to always get waste, and especially when you're selling from to retail stores, because you'll always end up with extra inventory, and then you run into an inventory problem again. So it really is very careful control of exactly who your customer is, what your customer range is, and it's really I think we're all still working on how to manage that with inventory control in mind.
One of the other things that I see happening with this move from the brick and mortar stores to an online presence, which everyone wants to be in today, is how do you think that you should address the return issue? Because I know when buying online, I might buy 2 garments instead of 1 if I'm buying from a brand that I'm not familiar with. Do you also, and historically, returns in the online space that I've worked in is about 30%, and that's pretty much the average across the board. Do you see that increasing? And because I think that each team, and particularly the technical design team, is tasked with either validation of those returns, also doing a deeper dive from a historical, what do we sell and what do we get back? How do you put your arms around that from your vantage point as technical designers?
I have one. I think that there's kind of two types of returns. There are returns that are made or three types. One that's just made to return the garment for no reason. Then you have ones that might be a quality issue. And then you have the third that's a sizing problem. And I think that technical designers, for the most part, are probably the sizing problem is what usually when the head of production is going to come over your desk, they're going to say, these were all returned for a sizing problem. But you're really not going to hear about the quality problem as much, because then that's up to the head of production. So each type of return kind of falls under a different department and different department head. So it's kind of, each type of returns, I would say, is handled differently.
Yeah. At Athleta, like, we have this thing called VOC, which is Voice of Consumer, where our product insights team, they evaluate the ratings on our website and identify the top styles that performed over that past month, and the top list of styles that performed poorly. And then they kind of extrapolate info from consumer feedback on whether or not it's a fit related issue or fabric or whatever. Whenever we, when I was on the technical design team, whenever it would be, a couple of styles that may have had a fit issue, we do a deep dive. We buy samples of that particular style from online or in store, try on different sizes ourselves, and just try to identify like where we went wrong. We go back in our fit comments, we go back to the pattern, and we really evaluate what is the issue, and moving forward, how can we avoid that issue reoccurring? And just from a broader lens, like what, it may just be a specific type of style or construction that just doesn't work for that particular fabric, or just our customer and her needs, or the function and use of the garment. So we're constantly working and listening to our customers and just trying to evaluate how we can mitigate issues of fit, like literally every month. Always trying them on, always, we do size set fittings where, for like our bullseye styles, before we, push to bulk production, we'll have, size small, extra, extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, or 1X to 3X models come in, and they all try on the same garment and give us feedback, and we evaluate how it hangs on each body, how it fits each size, and just try to gather as much insight before we go into bulk production. So on our end, like, we're just constantly diving into these different aspects, pre-production, post-production.
What in getting ready for this session, I did some historical research, and something that surprised me was that the sizing standards were actually built in 1930 by what I found out was the Food and Drug, the Department of Agriculture, and they were set in place in 1939. We're 90 years away, or 80 to 90 years away from that level. And one of the questions I had was, do we need to rethink sizing? I think that, if you could have some small ideas about this, or just your own ideas about this, I think it would help for not only merchants and for brand owners to understand how they can make small changes, incremental changes, to evolve our sizing point of view. And I'd like to ask Jamie and Jessica about this, because I think that you have, you might have a somewhat more holistic view of how to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I can absolutely The answer is yes, we need to rethink things. And a key part of that is we need better data and we need to continually collect data, which is why we did the project that we did called Size North America. So the data's there. It's just the key to how we actually implement it. And something that I think is actually kind of related to this, we've talked a lot about inventory control, and I think that is part of how we rethink sizing. It doesn't work in all cases, but I think that we can utilize technologies like on-demand manufacturing to allow us to create more sizes and have a larger size offering, because at the end of the day, we are all very different. We have a very diverse society, especially here in the United States. And one of the key ways to reach more people is to offer more sizes, and that's a way that we can do that. I think those were my key thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I'd like to echo that. I do believe that there are several things that can be done, but it will take some investment, and not just the monetary kind, but a different way of thinking when we're structuring our supply chains and thinking about design holistically. And we're in a different time where the designs and styles and demands aren't coming from the top down, where you have these houses determining how everything is going to be. It's coming from the bottom up, from the consumer. So if we have a focus on the consumer, then we need ways to extract these data points, just as Jamie mentioned, and then bring those data points throughout our supply chain. And if that means you have to do your 3D avatars and design so that you can have multiple fit models and then test those products on your ideal customers, that has got to be implemented, because we cannot live in a time anymore where we're not matching people to products successfully. Returns is a $64 billion issue annually, and it's only going to grow, but also dead inventory is a $50 billion issue that people don't really address, because we're not actually making things that the customer wants. That's for the customer's body. It's an inverted supply and demand chain that we have to kind of mitigate. And I think that technology is the key to that. And it doesn't have to be expensive. We just have to think holistically and intelligently about where in the supply chain are you having these gaps? What are those issues that are coming from those gaps? And then how can we integrate all of this amazing available technology to fix those problems? And I think that when the design rooms start thinking a little bit more about the voice of the consumer, the body types, how they want to communicate that, I think we'll have a better opportunity. And I always say that instead of casting your net wide and trying to get everybody, let's go deeper and be a little more niche about who you're catering to, because the more niche you are, the better your conversation can be with your customer. The more communication you can have that makes sense, the more data you can gather, and you can iterate right back to your design room more quickly. So I think that when brands can really understand their archetype customers and understand not just, this is a girl who goes on yachts and she likes to party in New York, like those things are arbitrary. What you really need to understand is the majority of our customers are built this way. Their weight gain distribution is this way, whether it's up or down. They love these items consistently because it's flattering, or they love that. We need more data points that make sense so that we can then match people to products successfully. But I will say the technology exists. It's just about combining those different technologies with the working style of your organization and with the skill set that you currently have, and then, kind of running out a new plan. But don't be overwhelmed by that. It's all doable within your budgets.
Yeah, that's excellent. And Jessica, I couldn't agree more. It reminds me of prior to Athleta, I worked for this company called Sid Mashburn back in Atlanta, and they had a men's made-to-measure shirting program. And they were a much, smaller company than what, I'm a part of now. But something was just really magical about the technology they utilized to take their customers' measurements, put those measurements into a computer software system, and that system would spit out a custom shirt pattern for that customer. And then I would send that, check the pattern and then send that pattern to the manufacturer. And within a couple of weeks, the customer would have a custom fit, made to measure shirt. Now that takes longer. It's, that particular software is very difficult to implement at a larger scale. But, I'm hoping, I'm just like, is there technology out there that could mimic that on a larger scale so that we could ensure that more people are able to get their correct size. And on those shirts, there is no size, it's just your size according to your measurements and your desires for the fit of that garment, whether you want it to be slit fit or relaxed or whatever. And I just thought that was so cool, actually being a part of and having hands on that software and seeing it implemented and seeing customers satisfied, more than satisfied with their purchases. It's not traditional, it's lower, but you're providing what they need long-term, and it's quality, and they keep it for a longer amount of time, and there's less waste.
I wanted to add to that, Joelle. That's very interesting because the parametric pattern grading software that you're talking about is amazing. And it does just that. It takes your exact measurements and it creates the pattern. But one of the things that I like to note is that the concept of fit is both measurements and anthropometric and also style and preference. So even if we can't create every individual body type, we can begin to create those averages based on the population. And this is what I know Jamie can speak to this all day because I'm so familiar with Size America. I think it's awesome. You can see so many different things. But let's say instead of saying, okay, I want to take the measurements of my average population, put it into a similar system, and now get patterns that better fit this general group, even that would be a step in the right direction. That's not quite made to measure, but it's kind of mass customization. You just still have to isolate which body types represents your population. And I think it's so brilliant that Joelle even mentioned that, because that is the type of thinking that we're going to have when we're considering what size and fit and sustainability will look like in the future.
So oops, I might not be.
I just wanted to say perfectly said. I couldn't agree more.
So in an effort to not only get to the next step with all these things, do you believe that all brands should have somewhat of a call to action with regard to how it should be sustainable and how sizing does matter, given the fact that we are moving to an online space dramatically much faster than I think anyone would have imagined? And would that help in terms of communicate and have sort of relevance to not necessarily a modern customer, but to all customers?
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
Would it be helpful for all, again, my point of view from a merchant is that, sustainability, I think about it one way, different people think about it different ways, but when you're shopping online, usually you're looking for an emotional quotient as opposed to, and somewhat tactical because you're looking at size and color for the most part. Would it be helpful for all brands to have somewhat of a call to action to the customer that they have a responsibility in helping to be sustainable? And would it be helpful for the brands to actually communicate that to customers so that they have buy-in, or that they have at least that they own a part of this equation as well? Would that be helpful for us to do from a brand point of view?
While I can't say that it may be helpful for the customer, I think it'll be helpful for the higher ups to let us know that it is like I said in the beginning, to really balance stakeholder and shareholder value. We've got to find a way to match people to products, because if we're talking about bottom line and making money sustainably, and we're not, and reducing the amount of returns and dead inventory, that's profitability. And if we're really sincerely want to be profitable, then this issue of sustainability has to come into play, because every garment that we're producing should actually be matched with an intended customer. And that is good for everybody. It's good for the customer. It's good for the investors. It's good for the executives who have to look great. It's good for the people designing who now understand, I know exactly what we're making and when. I think that it would be a great call to action for the internal teams and people invested in the company. But I will never say that, transparency with the consumer is always important. And I think if that motivates a consumer to purchase or to build a relationship with you, then yes, put it out there. But I think it would be even better for the internal teams and investors and stakeholders.
Bettina, do we have questions?
I think actually Travis had a point that he wanted to share before I get into my questions, but this has all been information. Travis?
Also need to remember too is that when you, like in the past, when companies would talk about, when you would discuss things with fashion companies, and they say, oh, well, my clothes don't really, your clothes don't really fit me. you would hear comments of like, well, my clothes weren't made for you. So that is part of the history that we can't deny. You know, that's the way companies, that was the old guard way of thinking, that fashion was actually meant to exclude rather than include. So we have to remember where we came from to go to where we need to go. So that's just an important part that we need to keep in mind.
Love that. Yeah, that's a lot of the luxury model and other models used to cater to certain customer groups. So I have questions, and I love everyone's insight. It was very informative about the product development process. One of the first questions that came in, I'm not sure, this is from an anonymous attendee, but the question is, what about the fact that with age, the same size fits differently? So for example, a size 8 is different on a 30-year-old than a 60-year-old. Jessica, I think you kind of spoke about this a bit. And it says, you'll sell both. And so a company doesn't want to make two patterns. More, older customers may return due to fit. And is anyone doing patterns catering maybe to a certain age? And I don't know if that's an answer for 3D printing or other technologies, but I'll open that up.
Yeah, I can just touch on the confirmation that absolutely bodies can be almost identical in terms of actual size measurements. So yeah, you can be the same size and have a very different body shape, and that's absolutely true. And it's not realistic to make products for all of these different. You can't have a size 8 that's for a younger population, and also for an older. That's just, again, inventory control issues that we've talked about today. But I think that's where it's important to consider design. That's something that really needs to be considered. And in some cases, your brand may have a very specific target market. So that you cater to a certain age group, and then that body type of that age group needs to be considered. And in areas where it is broader, I think that's also where 3D can come in, and of course physical fit models as well. But if you have different avatars, which are easier to have than physical humans running around, but if you have avatars that represent those different age groups, you can test it out. You can see how it's going to change and how it's going to work, and then at least that. And that's something for you to consider before you get to the end consumer.
I'm going to weigh in from a brand owner.
Sure.
As we move towards the 3D space, which was what I consider brick and mortar, to a more digital space, the most important thing that we found was pictures have to be authentic, and I think that how much information you give around that picture, which could be just a simple conversation with the customer, which is, yes, the model that you see here is really wearing a size 8. Okay, that might not be the case. And if they can refer to the fit chart, that usually should be as a complement to the information that's given. To me, that's critical, because the inauthenticity, actually, what we found, built in more brand unalliance than brand alliance. And the more fakey pictures that we had, whether it was skin tone, pulling the clothes in, not showing the correct zipper or the zipper placement or the length or all those things, is this girl tall? Is she short? Those are things that we found definitely gave the product and the brand more credibility.
Yeah, truth in marketing. It's a great strategy. I know that I was recently shopping online and I saw this model is, 5'10", she wears a size, etc. That helps you because, if you're of similar height, then you can really understand how that fit works.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the most simple solutions ever. I say this all the time. People are always fascinated by technology, and I'm like, what about the honesty in seeing someone in it who's similar to you? Let's not forget about how powerful that is. Rent the Runway does that really well. When you're trying to rent a dress, you can see it on various people with different busts and height. And that, to me, helps me to pick something way faster than if you show me a vanity image of the ideal person, because it doesn't feel connected to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the runway does. They give a lot of different, customer reviews from people who've actually rented that particular garment. Or like this, for example, is one of their retirees. I decided to buy it. So yeah, definitely understand that. Yes. I think we have a couple more questions, and we're getting a little
Mhm.
short on time. So next is from Nicole. Given the cost of returns and dead inventory, with 3D modeling and more on-demand production make financial sense? And I know, Jamie, you started talking about that. But I'd like to give a little bit more time to talking about dead stock is a big deal, and the different technologies, not just 3D modeling, but just seeing it, as Jessica even mentioned. But Jamie, please.
Yeah, of course. I know I'm the one that briefly brought it up, so I can expand upon it. But I think that Jessica, in a way, already did. So the answer to this question is yes, it can make financial sense, but you have to do it in the right way. If you continue to offer the same sizing that you're offering, and the only thing that you change is on-demand manufacturing, you're really not addressing the issue of returns and why your product is being returned. But if you combine that with extended sizing, and by extended, I don't just mean like larger sizing, I mean an extended size range, taking into consideration different body types, different heights, things like that, then you can actually get on top of the issue while still managing that inventory.
Yeah, I agree. Joelle, did you want to talk about that, especially since Athleta and the Gap companies overall have started offering more extended sizes or size range, I should say?
I mean, yeah, I echo what Jamie said. I mean, like, you have to combine not only like on-demand manufacturing, but just really addressing that core issue of providing sizes that accommodate a broader range of consumers. Totally agree.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more. Let's see. I'm sorry, trying to feel to make sure I get to as many as we can. The next question, I'm not sure who this came from, is what information do brands utilize or have access to now about how size profiles of customers? So what type of information? I think students who may be wanting to get into that might be interested.
Doesn't that depend on the brand and what information they're collecting? I may not be clear on the question, but I would like to say that depending on the type of brand, you have their past purchase history, which can be heavily utilized to understand what sizes and products that they're buying. I'm not sure if you are collecting, some brands collect height, weight, or something like that. It's not typical, but if they are collecting that, then you can have access to it. But I think it just depends on what the brands are asking the customer. In lieu of having tons of detail, the past purchase history could be one of your greatest indicators of size and fit and what's working, especially if you can have an understanding of the products that they're buying, not just the sizes, but the type, because different items are going to fit differently. You could put together profiles based on that and kind of tag that information to have a taxonomy of products and sizes for that customer. Now, that could be very complicated. So I'm not sure how many brands are doing that, but if that's what you were asking, that would be the first thing that comes to mind, in my opinion.
I'd like to add, as what we found was fast data was one of the most important things that we could gain. Whereas fast fashion is usually what everyone's talking about today. I think fast data with regard to how fast we can read and react to our returns, to custom. So it's not just returns, but it's also taking the data from customer reviews, taking the data from history, historical data, but also then inputting that into whether it's not only one garment, because when we're making one style, there's probably a plethora of other styles that it relates to as well. So those bases, or blocks as we used to call them, or slopers as many people call them, those are very, very important. And if we realize that there's an issue there that we gain from fast data, from returns or reviews or stars, or however you want to gain that information, communicating that to the teams that need to address it, and then also communicating out when you made a change to your customer as well, I think is important, so that there is that level that Jessica has spoken about, which is transparency to the customer and being authentic.
Yeah.
And I just, go ahead, Joelle.
No, you can go ahead.
So I just wanted to add to that. If you're looking for up-to-date body data, actual body data about the market, about the consumers right now, and consumer insights into things like their shopping habits, we just collected that. So we have all of that. You can always ask me about it.
So awesome. At Athleta and across Gap, we work closely with Alvanon, the FitForm manufacturer. And I'm not exactly sure how they gather all the information that they do, but I know that they gather sizing, measurements, height, weight data from our core consumer. And they utilize that data to produce I have a fit form right here in my room, but a fit form custom made for that specific brand. So Athleta has a custom fit form, size 6, and then we have, a size 2X according to the data from our customer base, made by Avanon. And then Gap, they have a different avatar. And then, Banana and so on, we all have specific custom fit forms that we check all of our styles against. We have a fit model, but we're primarily using her for function and movement, with active wear. But, in terms of checking balance and the sleeve length or body length or whatever, we try to just stick to looking at the garment on this fit form to get the most accurate fit for our customer. So that's been a huge tool for us as we seek to provide the best fit for our customers.
Great, thank you. Time is just super fast. I think there's just a couple more minutes before I have to turn it back over to David. And I just wanted to understand, I think we didn't see from some of the questions, but you all touched on it in different ways. If anyone would like to comment, this is a question for me, which is, if we have a better fit, has there been any data that you've seen in your companies or your initiatives that say this is making the brand more sustainable?
I have a ton of stats on my website that cover it. It's really a science. The better the fit, the better the confidence, the better that we're communicating and managing expectations. What happens naturally is that people will buy, and instead of returning because they have no idea what's going on, they actually keep products longer because you've managed their expectations. And then as we reduce returns, we're also reducing the dead inventory. And then essentially we're reducing the 15 million tons of textile and apparel waste that end up in landfills every year. So I will make this available on my website so that everyone can see, but it's so many stats of how it makes it sustainable to literally just match people to products better and by understanding size and shape and fit.
Travis, I'll come to you, and then David, I'll turn it back to you for you to weigh in, and then you can take back over.
Okay.
I also think that if a product fits well, it also leads to repeat bodies, and so that the companies will repeat the style over multiple seasons. And also, I think probably it also leads to less waste in the development process, because a lot of the waste in all of fashion is the development of a style. So if the style fits well, then it'll lead to less development, which is going to make it more sustainable.
Thank you. And David, I'll turn it back to you. And thanks everyone for submitting your questions.
Great. I think one of the things that's very interesting to hear from all of you and to hear from the panelists in total is how we need to connect the dots and how we need to communicate and connect the dots, not only to our customers, but also to the internal brand owners and the process owners within the product development process, starting with the inception of design, going all the way through to customer service, all those things that we have to do in order to have the brands embrace on a real and honest level. So I know that we're short on time, but what I wanted to do was from the technical design area, the question was, what are the 5 must-haves And because you've already referenced some low-hanging fruit, which is great, because it's simple, that's easy. But what do you feel are the 5 must-haves that a brand should address to connect the dots for sustainability and technical design?
I can start if you'd like. I don't know if I can think of 5, but I can think of one that I really already touched on, which is having an extended size range. Like I said, the average woman, and I'm speaking about women here, but it's true for both men and women and even children, the average is falling near the end of where most brands are stopping. And there's been more attention paid to it recently, but it really needs to be front and center and focus. And similarly, if you're only fitting on one size, if you're only fitting on a size 6 and then grading it up and down from there, you need to focus on the other sizes as well. Make sure that you're fitting on other sizes. Yeah, that's basically my thoughts there.
From a design perspective, something that we try to be intentional about is seam line placement and how it relates to our markers, so that we are designing garments that don't produce a lot of waste when the vendor has to go in and cut the style. So trying to be intentional about making sure that we're not disregarding how pattern pieces will be laid out on those fabric rolls, so that we're not producing a ton of fabric waste in that. And another thing that we try to be intentional about is opportunities for dual sizing. When we produce, like a oversized cardigan or something like that, it, helps reduce our SKUs, but it also helps to mitigate overbuying in any particular size and inventory waste in that regard. So whenever we can and have like a garment that, can accommodate a range of sizes, small, medium, large, extra large, we try to go for that dual sizing model for that particular style.
I think I've gotten 4. And I would say that, the quality and fit are equal to, quality and fit to me are really what we talk about. I mean, having been a swimwear maven, that's the only way you get to quality is excellent fit. And you can't alter anything for the most part.
I have another one, and I can't believe I forgot this. But a huge part of my role within tech design was ensuring construction quality. So whether that is, reinforcing bar tacks on pockets or anything that will just help ensure that the garment doesn't fall apart after a couple wears or a couple of washes. Huge in terms of sustainability, and also making sure that your fabrics, we've done a lot of research and development around our leggings. That's, obviously like our money-making product, but making sure that we are producing legging styles and fabrics that don't pill, so that they last longer. And that's a huge part of sustainability, is just making sure that your garments are not falling apart or showing a ton of wear after, a short period of time. So your customers can just keep wearing them for years to come and hold on to them.
I'm so sorry, but yes, that's so great, because we always think about sustainability in fabric or something, but longevity is another super important point. So I love that. Thank you.
Well, I think that we're at time almost. What I wanted to sort of just follow up with, which when you think of it, the 5 must-haves, and there might be 6, but I'm sure there's more. But extended size ranges, fit appropriate size, seam line placement, dual sizing. It would be nice to have one size fits most on some levels. I've seen that as well. Construction quality and fabric integrity, because I think all those things really are the nuts and bolts of a garment, and how we manufacture but bring this product to life. So it does have integrity. So it does have, so it brings a brand a level of authenticity is really, and also connecting the dot again to the merchant level, which is if we have all these things in place, then we can also communicate sustainability from our point of view. And to me, that will help really involve and be more inclusive in terms of the conversation. So it's really not a separate silo. It's really, when you think about it, it's not a vertical silo, it becomes a horizontal silo that has to be addressed within each function within the organization. So thank you. I appreciate that. I want to thank all of you for being involved. You added so much to even my own understanding of this opportunity. And I think that, most merchants think of it as a one more thing to deal with. But I think that if we think about it as an opportunity, as a challenge opportunity, it can only get us to better outcomes because our inputs are going to be that much stronger and be more validated from a customer point of view. So thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Yes, thank you so much, David Burnett, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Travis, Jamie, Joelle, Jessica, Bettina. This has been a fascinating conversation, and it is, fit is a wicked problem, and it involves so much. And when we return, there's the impacts of return logistics, reverse logistics, excuse me, and then it's also a social issue. I read a study a few years ago about how women in particular, who often will try on many things, don't think they look good in any of them, and then they think there's something wrong with their body, right? So it's not just an environmental issue. I think that, solving fit problems will be great for everyone. So I want to give you each an opportunity to plug yourselves in case, or your company in case anybody wants to reach out to you, and then we'll thank our sponsors. But take it away if you each want to do that, please.
Sure. You guys can follow me at luxorandfinch.com, and as well as find me on LinkedIn, Jessica B. Couch. I have a lot of published articles there and some videos if you're interested. And my email is jcouch@luxorandfinch.com.
Thank you.
You can reach me on LinkedIn.
Okay. No, Joelle.
You can reach me on LinkedIn, Joelle and Bond. Any other questions you feel that I can answer, from my perspective, I'd be happy to. And also, I am currently designing sweatshirts, dresses, and sweatpants for Athleta, and am always looking to hear feedback from our customers and what you'd like to see, and things, constructive criticism or whatever. Just reach out to me there on LinkedIn, Joelle and Bond. Thank you.
Yay. I would also say LinkedIn is going to be the best bet. I know actually Andrea tagged us all in today's session, so I think you could also find us there. But same thing here. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. Happy to follow up and talk more.
Same thing here. The best way to reach me is probably LinkedIn, and I am free to answer any questions.
Tina?
Just thank you to everyone and great questions. I wasn't expecting you to call me, sorry.
That's okay. I'm David Burnett, and my consulting firm is B&B Present. Again, I've worked in 26 countries around the world and done sourcing for everything from soup to nuts, starting with swimwear, the most difficult product for a woman to buy for the most part. So if there's any questions, please reach me at LinkedIn.
Wonderful. And thank you all so much. I'm just going to share my screen, and thank you for joining us for week 16 of the Fashion and Sustainability Summit. And one moment, sorry. This has been a collaboration of LAM College, where business meets fashion, and fashiondex.com, your online and in-person informationist. And I want to again thank Jamie Campbell, Jessica Couch, Joelle Bond, Travis Wells, David Burnett, and Bettina Hobson for what's been a great conversation for this series. And we also want to thank again Echo Life Yarns, Kendor Textile and Accessories Council. Please check them out and tell them you saw them at the Fashion and Sustainability Summit. And join us for week 17, where we're going to have a conversation on working towards environmental sustainability at your office, brand, store, distribution center, or warehouse with Sam Mann from the New York City's Office of Sustainability, Philippa Atwood from Tree Nation, if you want to offset, Elizabeth Pulis, who takes care of all of Macy's in-store sustainability, and Soli Shin of GARP. That panel will be moderated by myself, Rebecca Margolis, and Juliet Jones, both students at LAM College, and Rebecca's an intern here. So thank you so much. And if you are having fitting issues, and if you need standard sizing and grading standards with up-to-date information, and Jamie discussed Size North America, the study, excerpts of that study are in the new book that's available, that was done through a partnership of Human Solutions of North America and Fashion Deck, standard body measurements for apparel design and production, adult edition with all sizes from, I believe, if I'm correct, 0 to 32 of women's wear and 28 through 60 of menswear, I believe. So check it out, and it could help solve your fit issues. And thank you so much. We wish you a sustainable day.